Watcher everybody, and welcome to another Reddit Files. So today I want to talk about ODL, on-demand liquidity. And for those that don't know, this is a piece of enterprise software that Ripple, the company, have created that uses under the covers the XRPL, the XRP ledger, and XRP, the native token of XRPL, as a bridge asset to facilitate cross-border payments. And for me, this is one of the most profound use cases of cryptocurrency that exists and has been implemented today, is being used as we speak, has a business case. So there's nothing airy-fairy about this. It's a concrete implementation of cryptocurrency for a business use case, and arguably a very important use case where today correspondent banking with cross-border payments is an absolute nightmare for anyone who has tried to send as part of their business or even as a remittance, personally sending money to someone in another country. It's not easy, it's not transparent, it often fails, it's very error prone, it takes a long time, and it's expensive. And given the amount of given where we are in the current day in terms of our technology, it is unbelievable how bad cross-border remittance and payments are. And this is what on-demand liquidity, again, a piece of software delivered by Ripple, the company, solves. And it solves it obviously for enterprises. And those enterprises that use ODL can make it available to retail customers. But Ripple is focused on enterprise customers, so it's B2B. And really what this thread is about is to try and understand exactly how ODL works, because I have spoken to Ripple sales staff. I've even spoken or indirectly communicated with some ODL developers. But the more I dig into how ODL could work, or how a cryptocurrency can work for cross-border payments, the more the optionality blows me away in terms of there's so many different ways that this problem can be solved with crypto, that I just want to understand, like, if possible, how ODL does it and what the other options are. So to that end, I decided a post on Reddit is probably the best thing to do, followed up with a video. So let's see how far I got in terms of my understanding of ODL. And look, if someone can really break this down for me to the level of detail that I want, I'd be really, really grateful to you. But I think the reality is that ODL certainly does something in a particular way, and there's some optionality, but there's still other ways of skinning this particular cat, and I'm just interested in what those ways could be, what those options are. So without further ado, a detailed explanation of ODL. It's supposed to be a question, so I missed the question mark. Can I have a detailed explanation? Can anyone provide a detailed explanation of how ODL works, ideally down to what is required to install and manage it within an enterprise? While I've managed to get some answers from Ripple developers, there is some details that aren't clear to me. There are some details that aren't clear to me. So here are some of my questions. Number one, Ripple's enterprise software for ODL. Does it have to be installed on premise, or is there an API available for which one can use to access ODL without having to install anything? The answer to that is probably yes. I'd be amazed if it's one or the other. Like there's only an API and it's software as a service, or you have to install some software on premise. But yeah, I'm not sure, so open question there. Number two, I understand that as an enterprise client, I purchase XRP directly from Ripple when making a cross-border payment. This is a transparent part of the ODL gateway, and it's transparent to the customer. So my enterprise needs to be able to pay Ripple for XRP. Can my enterprise choose to buy XRP from another source and use that XRP in ODL? So what I'm saying here is, of course, I never really have to think about this transaction in terms of purchasing XRP, but I'm interested as a consumer of this service. I don't have to think about that. But as someone who's interested in how it's implemented, I'd really want to know, where does the XRP come from? And there are several different sources, as you will see. I'll show you what I think those sources are for XRP. And it's important to know where it comes from, because maybe it's all three of those sources, or maybe it's one or a smaller subsection of those sources. Does ODL then sell that XRP for the beneficiary currency in the beneficiary country? I assume this is the happy path, i.e. ODL finds 3 exchanges in the US and finds the best price for a venue to exchange XRP USD. I'll elaborate on that in a moment. And number 4, if the beneficiary currency XRP pair isn't available in the beneficiary country, can ODL find an alternative route? So those are my initial questions around ODL. They're not the best questions, honestly. The more I look at this, the more I talk about it, I kind of realize that they're not the best questions, and I could ask better questions. But you've got to start somewhere, right? And this is the kind of diagram that I have in my head about how Ripple's ODL works, on-demand liquidity. So let me walk you through this. I'm the originator based in the UK with pounds, UK sterling, and I want to send $100 to a beneficiary in the United States. So I turn to ODL that is available in my enterprise and say, can you do this? Can you give me a quote, give me a price in pounds for me to send $100 to this beneficiary that's located in the US? So what could ODL do? Because that's my business problem. How can ODL fix it? So yeah, acknowledged. What I expect ODL to do is let me find the best price for GBP XRP and XRP USD. So the first conversion that it's doing under the covers completely transparently is that it's going to ODL is going to take my pounds and give me a certain number of XRP in return, and then it's going to use that XRP and convert it into USD. The question becomes, where does that happen, right? And so it could happen on a DEX, a decentralized exchange that is already available on the XRPL. It could happen on a centralized exchange like Binance in the US or wherever. Any exchange that would take XRP and give me USD is a potential candidate for this exchange, right? Or Ripple could just sell me the XRP directly, at least for the first hop, the GBP XRP piece of this. And then Ripple would have to, they could potentially, if they have a USD bank account, they could just send dollars to the beneficiary directly. There's a lot of optionality here, right? And this is where I think people aren't really thinking about. And for sure, I don't expect all of these options to be available, but somehow I think they might well be on ODL, right? So to recap, yeah, there are 3 sources of XRP as a bridge asset for converting currency cross-border exchange. There's the DEX on the XRP ledger, and this is fascinating because it's a decentralized exchange. That means anyone could be participating here in terms of adding liquidity. So for example, the hooks that are being added to the XRPL could potentially allow me to participate as an individual in an FX exchange by lending out my XRP and making it available. That maybe that's a possibility. There's also things like Flare networks as well that could sit on top of here. So there could be dApps that could be providing XRP, selling XRP in an open market on a decentralized exchange to help facilitate the transfer or the exchange of cross-border payments, fiat payments. Then there are centralized exchanges like Coinbase, Binance, you name it, how many thousands of these things there are that have XRP listed, XRP USD pairs listed, or XRP fiat pairs listed that could be used in the beneficiary country and the beneficiary currency to convert that XRP to the beneficiary currency. And then finally, Ripple could just do it itself, right? Again, if Ripple has a banking relationship, has a bank in the US that can remit dollars to someone else in the US, another entity in the US, then Ripple could do this whole thing itself. Doesn't necessarily even need to find an exchange, right? It could act as a broker selling XRP technically selling, is that the right word? Making XRP available to a customer in the UK as a bridge asset that it could then do the FX and do the remittance and the settlement of the fiat currency. I mean, just in this small piece here, there are so many options. I'd love it if someone from Ripple could tell me, like, am I barking up the wrong tree here, or exactly how ODL would work? Because there's so much optionality right there. But anyway, going back to this diagram, so step 1 is the originator, step 2, step 3 is ODL trying to find the best path for this settlement from these various venues of exchange. Then it comes back and just presents, I would imagine, the originator with a price and says, okay, I can take your $100, send it to your destination in a certain amount of time within all of these ISO 2022 parameters, and it's going to cost you £80. Do you accept? Step 4 is for the originator to say, yeah, that sounds good to me. If you can pay my beneficiary $100 for £80, I accept that transaction. And then ODL would go off, and whatever route that it found, whatever smart order routing that it found to satisfy that transaction, it goes and executes it. In this instance, it's Binance in the US that's going to take XRP and buy and or sell it, buy it for GBP and sell it for USD, or it could just be taking XRP and selling it for USD. And I would imagine Ripple has a fiat account here in USD with Binance, and then through some kind of off-ramp in the beneficiary country, which happens to be the United States, $100 ends with the beneficiary. Now, I know that's convoluted, and I apologize. Yeah, this is kind of what's going through my head in terms of the optionality that's available for settling a cross-border payment without Nostro Vostro accounts, i.e. without using SWIFT. I would imagine it's something like this. But this is the whole point of this Reddit, is to find out if that's the case. So let's look at some of the comments that I got to this post, which it was okay. We got 15 kind of likes on here and 22,000 views, decent amount of karma, decent 200 karma points, and 89%. So it wasn't a complete waste of time to ask this question. So what have we got? Netscribe. Why are you not talking to Ripple sales? I did, Netscribe. I did. But to take the conversation further with them, I had to sign an agreement, and I moved on from that company. So yeah, and Netscribe kind of keeps banging this drum. I don't want to be too harsh to Netscribe. Thank you firstly for even responding. But it just does. Maybe I didn't make myself clear, NetScribe, of what I'm trying to find out is under the covers exactly how this thing works. So what NetScribe says is, I'm not sure what you're looking for and wondering if you're looking for a level of detail that's not there. Quite possibly it isn't there. Yeah, that's why I'm looking for it. There's a decentralized exchange DEX built into the XRPL protocol, 100% correct. A business will buy XRP from Ripple or another source in the amount that they want to move. The counterparty specifies an XRPL address and the XRP is sent to that address. The counterparty can then convert. Okay, but what you're describing here, NetScribe, is if I wanted to do this manually myself, which I do, you know, when I want to send, I rarely use fiat cross-border remittance platforms anymore. What I do is tell people to, wherever possible, convince them to use XRP because it's so much cheaper. And if there's an exchange in the country that I'm sending them a payment, I just say, look, I can send you XRP, you work it out. And this is what you're describing, and you're absolutely right. ODL does this under the covers, yeah. And it can be made even more efficient. A step can be eliminated from that if the first business on-ramps their fiat and buys XRP on the DEX. Yeah, 100%, but I've yet to find many DEXs that actually have fiat on-ramps. But yeah, thanks for that. I think not hugely helpful from my perspective, but it may be more helpful for other people who are looking at this video. So my response, as I said, I'm looking for a detailed explanation of ODL, not just XRP exchanges on a centralized exchange or a decentralized exchange. For example, if I want to send 100 USD to a beneficiary in the US and I'm based in the UK and have GBP, exactly how does ODL source and route the XRP among liquidity providers, and who are those liquidity providers? Does the XRP come from Ripple? Does it come from a centralized exchange? And if it does, how is the centralized exchange selected? Like, is it based on the best price? One would imagine, but it could also, there could be other constraints that I'm not aware of, right? So if you have Coinbase and Binance in the US, both of them are providing liquidity. One of the criteria would be who's offering the best price for XRP USD, yeah, for sure. But then another criteria could be how many transactions have we done? Is there KYC? Is there probably some AML that would have been taken care of? But there may be other criteria. I'm just interested in what the selection criteria is. I would imagine primarily it's the price that's being offered. And presumably it can also come from a DEX, yeah, the actual decentralized exchange. All three sources... all three sources of XRP liquidity options for ODL? I don't know. That's the question, yeah? If they are, that would be fascinating if someone could confirm it. That would be incredibly powerful, by the way, if that's the case. If it isn't the case today, is it on the roadmap tomorrow? Assuming all three are options for ODL, how does ODL select between these options? And can it select more than one option? Can ODL choose to source some liquidity from a centralized exchange that happen to be offering very good GBP XRP rate, for example, but only for 10% of the required XRP, and then source the rest from Ripple directly? So beyond smart order routing, can it chop up the orders and kind of like, well, it is still smart order routing to some extent to find the best venue, smart order kind of prioritization, find the best venue irrespective of the size of the transaction to some extent. I hope I'm describing all the optionality that can be involved and would like to understand to what extent ODL covers these options. Yeah, today I just haven't found much. So NetScribe, we go backwards and forwards a little bit. I don't understand what you don't understand. It's a free market. I get a little bit annoyed with NetScribe here and say, like, yeah, it didn't go, we didn't get as far as we could have on this, but thank you, NetScribe. Yeah, I appreciate the response. What else did we have here? That was XRP hodler, always good feedback from the hodler. From my from my understanding, Ripple has proprietary software called RippleNet, which has a built-in ODL option. I think they offer RippleNet to only their clients, partners like banks, financial institutions, market makers, etc. Not something available to the average individual. Correct. That's my understanding as well. Number two, I don't have access to RippleNet, so I can't answer that. Okay, so you can't answer the second question that I had, which was like how you would access it. Is it on-premise API? What is it? Probably both. Number three, yes, ODL lets you use local currency to buy XRP and then send that XRP to an exchange that is buying your XRP for the desired currency you wish to swap into. It's all done behind the scenes for the user, but not all currency pairs are offered using ODL, as I would imagine. There has to be an existing ODL corridor for you to use ODL on a specific currency pair. Okay. I think there is one with Thai baht USD, Mexican peso USD, and Ripple partners with market makers to ensure there's enough liquidity to perform these ODL transactions if there isn't enough liquidity that creates an issue like slippage. Understand? All of that makes sense. And number four, from my understanding, no, you need an exchange to swap XRP to that beneficiary currency. Without an exchange to swap XRP for the beneficiary currency, ODL doesn't work. Yes, XRP hodler, but if Ripple has its own relationship in the beneficiary country, its own banking relationship, it could act as the broker, right? So while yes, I would imagine most of the time ODL, Ripple ODL is using exchanges in the beneficiary country to swap out XRP for the beneficiary currency. It doesn't necessarily have to depend on an exchange if it has its own banking relationship in the beneficiary country. It can then act as a broker. So what's the difference between a broker and an exchange? A broker is selling their own inventory of XRP. They're not depending on a matching an order book. That's the difference, right? So an exchange has an order book and it matches those a buy with a sell order. Of course, it can have its own, let's say XRP available to help streamline those operations by injecting more liquidity into the order book and settling exchanges that way. But if there's no order book at all, Ripple could just sell their own XRP. So is that an option for ODL? That's a question. I would imagine they're doing this, but I just don't know. And this is what fascinates me about ODL is like the amount of thought that's gone into this cross-border payment capability with cryptocurrency is extraordinary. And this is what I find absolutely fascinating about XRP, the creators of XRP, and the software that's available for doing cross-border remittance. Obviating the need for correspondent banking. There's one more here, which I think this was a very good response by Active Ruins. My understanding, number one, on-premise versus cloud, only Ripple can answer this, but my understanding is that it is likely both and hybrid. I agree. The on-premise aspects are likely due to regulatory reasons and backward compatibility with older institutions. 100%, like as anyone who's worked in a banking environment knows, that sometimes there are constraints that actually prohibit you from using software as a service. I mean, it's back in the day now, to be honest. I'd be surprised if those constraints are still there, but they could be. 1A Reg API. If you are an enterprise, you should definitely be using Ripple's private API, which gives you access to a lot more than what's available on the public XRPL. And I think like this is the whole point of using ODL, right? I would imagine Active Ruins, because you could do this yourself, but then you're just rebuilding the software. Like, why would you want to do that? You'll get much better spreads, much better quality control, etc. If you just want to use XRP Ledger to transform from one fiat to another, APIs are available on XRP.org. Great to know. And for small amounts, you can easily use those APIs. Great answer. Thank you for that. Number 2, you do not purchase XRP from Ripple. You don't deal with XRP directly at all when you're using ODL. The fiat XRP fiat conversion is a detail that's hidden from you. Liquidity providers may either lease or purchase XRP to facilitate a regulated on-off ramp, but if you're on the payment side, you shouldn't have to care about XRP unless you're really big enterprise. Yeah, agreed. I just want to know exactly how that works, so that's why I'm asking the question. I fully understand the whole point of this is to make it transparent and as simple as possible for enterprise customers to consume and use. Free RippleNet will give you multiple options: speed versus accuracy versus cost, and typically recommend a path for you. Again, this is not available on the XRPL. Yeah, I would imagine that's a feature of ODL or RippleNet, or both. I think ODL is actually part of RippleNet. You'll need to use RippleNet, which is built on top of XRPL. Yeah, understood. For alternative routes, yes, remember that ODL is not necessary for using RippleNet. Let's say you want currency C1 and there's no on-off ramp. If C1 has good quality, good liquidity with currency C2 on traditional rails, and C2 has on-off ramps, then I would expect that you can use ODL to get C2 and then use traditional rails, which RippleNet supports by default. Okay, fascinating. To get to C2. So it is doing some smart routing, for want of a better term. Tilde, ODL will result in significant savings depending on the liquidity of the corridors you want to operate in. The greater the liquidity, lower the savings. Lower the liquidity, higher the savings. Okay, yeah, if there's a lot of liquidity, then you're not going to save much. If it's a really illiquid market, illiquid corridor, but ODL is available, you're going to save a lot by using ODL. But as a payment provider, if that is your business, XRP is an implementation detail that you don't need to worry about. ODL is just an on-off toggle in RippleNet. Thank you so much, Active Ruins, for this. That's arguably the most helpful comment that I read here. And there's some interesting information about ODL and how it works. I'm just wondering if there's anything. No relationship 1450. I think buying XRP from Ripple for ODL use is the most least likely scenario, because this is by far the easiest thing to happen, i.e. Ripple has ample XRP to sell at any given time. If Ripple were to do this, they would overflow the on-ramp side without anyone picking up for the off-ramp side. For ODL to be successful, there has to be a good balance of demand of XRP from a pair of currencies, i.e. currencies you're sending from and currencies you want to send to. This is the biggest problem with ODL at the moment. There isn't enough liquidity in most of the corridors. For example, migrant workers from Mexico might want to send their USD back home, converting it to pesos. which I guess is quite common. Yeah, agreed. However, conversely, there is a lot less people trying to send pesos into USD. That's why there must be ODL partners who are market makers in the currency pair corridor. When the customer initiates a send, a route is chosen, prices are fixed before it takes place. That's good to know. Yeah, and I think you're right here. With respect to at least on the retail remittance side, it's imbalanced, but then the demand for converting pesos to dollars on the other side is probably made up by industry, for example, and yeah, there'll be liquidity providers for that. So yeah, while the imbalance on a specific kind of transaction will be imbalanced, when it's netted out across the whole economy, it is balanced, if that makes sense. Double eco liquidity is indeed the problem, but what is quite positive is XRP fiat pairs on Bitso, BTC markets, CoinsPH, and independent reserve slam dunks all other crypto, including Bitcoin. So even in the infancy of ODL, destination exchanges are reaping nice volumes. Got to monitor the Brazilian and Middle Eastern ones. Interesting. So I should give some awards out. I know you're all looking forward to me giving cars out to people. So no relationship. You get a car. Well done. The all-seeing upvote. Double echo. I'll give you a car as well because I'm feeling generous today. Quick draw 1888. ODL, on-demand liquidity, is a service provided by Ripple that allows businesses to make real-time... Yeah, okay, did you just get this from an AI-generated answer? Yeah, yes, you did. Took me about 3 seconds to remember that was the AI. It's so superficial. Quick draw. Can you see this doesn't really inform you about anything? It's kind of very surface based definition of what it does. It's not that helpful at all for anyone who wants to. And it's like AI is quite stupid, I'm sorry to say. It impresses stupid people. AI is impressing a lot of stupid people at the moment. It's got a long way to go. Not being harsh on you, Quick Draw. I'll give you an award for just giving me an opportunity to talk about AI there. I'm not casting dispersions on you, so you are right to go to ChatGPT or whatever it was to get that answer. Okay, so this just to end on a negative note. Hypericum Cyberica. Anyone claiming to know with particular detail how every aspect of the operation is going to operate, and you didn't finish your sentence. Anyone who knows is involved in the conversation, but that's most likely a large contributing variable regarding the stall in the... Okay, it doesn't make sense. This is why you got a down vote. That's all. Nothing personal. Your comment just doesn't make much sense. So anyway, hodl the oddle. I'm going to be looking more at ODL. I'm really intrigued about how it works, and hopefully you can see that the replacement of correspondent banking is replete with opportunities for cryptocurrencies, and XRP seems to be really well placed here. It's not the only one, and I think Bitcoin and Lightning have a role to play here. And there won't be one solution, by the way. Anyone who tells you this is going to be one solution in payments has no idea about payments. So thank you very much. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, hit the notification button. You can follow me on Twitter, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Although I don't use LinkedIn that much. Thank you very much. I hope that was good. Cheers. Bye.